Live in Pozzuoli, Italy, in the region of Campania, in the Napoli province. So I'm basically in the Napoli province. So you have the Campania state, then you have the province, which is basically like a county, and then you have the city itself. So I'm in the Napoli province, which is the Italian equivalent of a county. I'm in the state of Campania. In the north, where Rome is Lombardo, and then you have Tuscany, which is further north, where Milano is. So right now, I am located in the city of Pozzuoli. This is the site where the land is uplifting and where you had all these earthquakes. This is the area where the ground has been uplifting in the last several years. It's uplifted by over 1.5 meters in just the last year and a half. There's been over a 1 meter of uplift. Most of the uplift, since I last visited here, the ground has uplifted 40 centimeters, basically almost 1.5 feet since I last came here. 1.5 feet of uplift since I was last here. Most of these boats were actually parked here, but they have to be moved back because the ground keeps on uplifting. So the water is getting lower. So the water, because there's more uplift, the ground's rising. Therefore, the water, the ground, the seabed is much higher now. Therefore, there's more land now. So the land is actually expanding because of the uplift. There's been very few earthquakes over the last couple of months, but there's still been slow uplift. This right here is the Pozzuolana from the Neapolitan yellow tuff eruption. You can almost see its yellow coloration and how you have these holes in there, and how if you pick at it, it kind of breaks apart and forms this little substance right here. It will be seen, I could show you better later in the day. This is actually natural volcanic ash right here. Let me show you how I pick at it. You can actually potentially turn on my camera, but look, right here. Let's just get it to unfreeze, or there we go. Finally focused. I hate the autofocus. I wish I could see, it just chips away. This is natural volcanic ash, known as Pozzuolana. Seawater makes it stronger. So this will last for thousands and thousands of years right here. I'm walking down towards the water right now. I'm going to be back here tomorrow because today I used most of the day to sleep. The only boats that can be parked here are the really small boats that don't really need a lot of hull underneath, such as these. You can actually see, if you look closely, where the water used to be. Look at that, right there. That's the water line. See how it's now higher up? It's higher up now because the water is getting lower and lower and lower as the land keeps on rising. The water is basically the same level, but the ground keeps on rising. Therefore, the water to us is dropping. You can actually see another water line down there. So this is the water when it's calm, and you can see the multiple levels that it's dropped. This was actually built after 1985. After the 1982 to 1985 uplift, the port was much further back. It was, so where the boats used to be parked was much further back. You see those steps down there? That's where the boats used to park. Now, they're likely going to continue moving the boats further and further back as the land keeps on rising. Before the last eruption, where I'm standing right now was submerged underwater, under at least 10 meters of water where I'm standing right now. Please write if you're, please type. I would really appreciate if you comment on my channel, please, because I need to know that, I want to interact with my viewers. So I'm monitoring the chat. So if any of you have to say anything, please do. And I'll answer any questions you have. I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, probably cannot. But there is a mountain over there. That mountain was not there 600 years ago. In fact, it's only formed in the last 470 years. It formed, 480 years. This mountain formed 485 years ago in the 1538 eruption of Monte Nuovo. It was an event there. It was before 1538. There was actually water there, and this volcano erupted. All of that formed only in a couple weeks. That's a combination of trachyte and phonolite magmas over there. And where I am right now, I could smell a little bit of sulfur because we're having a bit of an easterly wind, which is allowing some of the sulfur from the Solfatara and Fumero Pisciarelli to waft its way over towards Pozzuoli area, towards here, towards the port here. That boat over there is a ferry that leaves to Ischia about every couple of hours. It's not running now because it stops running after about 6. The fare to Ischia is about 30 euros. Or I think round trip is about 30 or 40 euros. I have to find out. Ischia is another volcanic island, and it last erupted, I believe, in 1300. So there's 3 volcanoes, 1 volcanic system, and 2 other volcanoes in the Napoli area. You have Campi Flegrei, which is where we are right now. We're actually in basically the middle of the crater. We're actually inside the volcano, even extending out like 10 miles into Pozzuoli Bay. That's where the whole caldera is. Pozzuoli, this town, is in the very center of the Neapolitan yellow tuff caldera. In fact, it's basically the center of both calderas, the Neapolitan yellow tuff eruption that occurred 12,000 years ago, and the more powerful Campanian Ingenbreit eruption that occurred 40,000 years ago. The most recent eruption was about, dare I say, the same as the Tambora eruption of 1815, maybe a little bit less. Definitely more powerful than any volcanoes in the 20th century, because definitely more powerful than Krakatoa, and even more powerful than the 1912 eruption of Nova Rupta, which is the most powerful in the 20th century. It was at least 2 to 3 times more powerful than that. So it was more on par with the 1815 and the 1257 eruptions that caused the year without a summer and a horrible famine in England that killed thousands just in London alone. There is still speculation whether it was 80 cubic kilometers, 120, 150 cubic kilometers from the Neapolitan yellow tuff. But the eruption from the Neapolitan yellow tuff covered almost all of Naples under meters of volcanic ash of this yellow composition, tuff or tufa, right here. This is most likely Neapolitan yellow tuff right here because it's a yellow composition, because the Campanian Ingenbreit tuff is buried under this. So this is what most of the Roman Empire used, was this right here, was Pozzolana, Pozzolana is the Neapolitan yellow tuff. You can still find Campanian Ingenbreit deposits, but you have to dig really, really deep. And there's very few areas that are actually exposed to that eruption because it's all been buried under the more recent caldera-forming eruption. The Neapolitan yellow tuff eruption does not qualify as a super eruption, even though it did form a secondary large caldera. The Campanian Ingenbreit eruption, however, it did qualify as a super eruption, as it extruded at least 300 cubic kilometers of material, which makes it a low-end super eruption. A super eruption starts at about 250 cubic kilometers. Some people could say about 100, but no, that's a VEI 7. Anything below 200 is not a super eruption. If you want to qualify 100 cubic kilometers as a low-end super eruption, then yes. Then 2 were. But Tambora did not produce a super eruption because it was on the very low-end scale of the VEI 7 type. It was a very low-end VEI 7 eruption, which did not qualify as a super eruption. And see, they reinforced this concrete, this regular concrete, with the Neapolitan yellow tuff right here. See, they reinforced it. Right here, there's some reinforcement of the volcanic ash with the volcanic ash bricks. Very, very interesting. See? Evidence of, you could even find breccia fragments in here. Because they just cut out these stones. They didn't mix it together. These are just natural stones. I'm smelling the sulfur again. All right. I'm going to be going right now. Seems like not enough people are watching. But yes, I'm currently in Pozzuoli. It just makes sense if you're visiting Napoli, just use public transport. Don't use cabs. Do if you have to go somewhere that's not accessible by mass transit, or rent a car. But the cabs here are very, very expensive. I don't want to take business away from them, But say you're running late somewhere. Of course, use a cab. But say you're not in a rush, it's better to use public transport. The public transport system runs pretty much 24/7, just like New York. It's a little, you have the regional trains, which are go through Campania. And then you also have the subway trains. I have a 7-day pass, which cost me about $20, 16 euros, which lets me ride anywhere in the Napoli area. Not sure if it's only for the city, but I think they told me it was the province, which means Pozzuoli is included in this pass, but is not included on certain trains, I believe, or certain buses. I have to find out for sure what my pass includes or it does not. Anyway, thanks for watching.